how can you not be radically pro-worker and anti-corporate and anti-boss after living under their dictatorships? Like, it's absolutely insane.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
The next guest that we've got on is Mike Figueredo from the Humanist Report on YouTube, Twitch, and Means TV. Mike,
yeah, how's it going? You said my name perfectly. I don't think that's ever happened before. Thank you.
Well, I wouldn't want to lie and say I'm a religious watcher of your videos, but I have been watching them for years, actually. So it's cool to.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, cool to be talking to you. But yeah, I've been seeing your videos on YouTube for years. So I've heard you say it a few times, and so yeah, glad to be talking to you, and really happy that you're on Means TV. That's a really cool thing. We're really big fans of that project over here.
Yeah, they are absolutely incredible. I'm honored to be part of Means TV, and also I am a fan of yours as well. I just found you all this last year, and I think your reporting is incredible. Your clarification of like misconceptions about the UAW strike was really helpful for me. In one of the videos talking about it, I actually gave you all a shout out because I'm like, go check out this one video where they kind of cleared it up. I think what you're doing is great, and congratulations on the success of this stream. You already raised $6,000. That's amazing. Good for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, and I'm glad that you found that useful. I was hopeful that that video had some amount of use value beyond YouTube drama, and hopefully it would be educational and edifying for some people. So I'm glad that was the case. But yeah, when I can't stand for people to be wrong on the internet, so I have to say something about it when I see it.
Yes, yeah, I think it's so important that you do these things because you are very much knowledgeable about this, whereas a lot of us on the internet, we talk a lot of shit, but in actuality, many of us are not like on the ground. We're not activists, we're commentators. And I think that it's really important for us to like sometimes just sit back and listen to the labor movement, and not try to like talk for them or talk past them. So yeah, I really appreciate that. And yeah, I'm so glad that you're all doing this, and really happy to be a part of it. I think this is really, really cool.
Yeah, so talk to people about, I imagine a lot of folks who are listening right now are familiar with you, but for those of you who are not, talk to us about the Humanist Report and what got you started doing the YouTube commentary stuff.
Yeah, so I basically was going to school for political science, and I was in the second year of a PhD program, and I was about to start teaching. I was a TA, and I felt really not very confident about my speaking skills. So I thought, why don't I start making YouTube videos? There's a lot going on. There's an election coming up. This was in like 2015 during the Democratic Party primary. And I thought that would be a really good way to get some experience. I know that the YouTube comments would be very, very unkind, but at the same time, there'd be a kernel of truth in there. And I started doing that, and people started to listen, and it kind of became big enough to where I could leave what I was doing. And funny enough, I already secured funding for the second year of the program that I was in. And right as I left and started doing YouTube full time, all of the students were forming a graduate union. So I was at the very early stages getting to witness that happen. And after I left, they actually did successfully form the union, which was really cool to see. But that's yeah, awesome. I left academia, and now I'm just doing YouTube full time. And it's been a lot of fun. The brain rot is there, but so much better to be your own boss than to work for these tyrants. Before that, I was throughout school, I was working very shitty retail and fast food jobs. I've told stories before where I was absolutely miserable. And I think that those experiences have really like radicalized me in the sense that like, how can you not be radically pro-worker and anti-corporate and anti-boss after living under their dictatorships? Like it's absolutely insane.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
It really is. And I did not realize that about you. I was not aware of your background, so I'm happy to know that. And I'm interested in the PhD program that you were in and what school it was. But the retail and service industry radicalizing you, that really hits home for me, because 2015 is kind of when I got politicized. And I was had been working for about 3 years in a restaurant. There was this guy who was in the back. He was one of our cooks, making like $8 an hour, an anarcho-capitalist, very right-wing, hated the government, didn't think we should have a minimum wage at all, making $8 an hour. And it just totally blows my mind thinking about that today. And he's still like a libertarian activist. It's bonkers to me, but those people exist. And that was very formative in my politics, working in a retail job, because as I was doing that, I was coming from an upper middle class, like, we weren't rich by any means. My mom is a programmer and my dad's a machinist, right? So, we never wanted for anything, but we weren't rich. So I never had to worry about, are we going to have money for college? Are we going to have money to go to the hospital? Or, anything like that. And then I was going to college, I got a math degree and I'm working for the government. I've got a union job. I'm a union steward, all this kind of stuff. I've got a good job, solidly middle class again. But while I was working in the restaurant industry, I saw so many people who, did not come from kind of a background like I did, and didn't really see themselves having a future in any other kind of industry where they would have more kind of stability or higher incomes or anything like that. And just the injustice of that really ate at me, because, the way that I saw it was that so little of kind of where I am is due to, my ingenuity and hard work. It's because, like, I grew up the way that I did, where I did, in the kind of class strata that I did. And had I been born in different circumstances, like, why would I believe that I would have a nice, project management job in the government with a math degree like that, right? And for people not to want to correct that, just it really baffles me. I don't understand it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It was very formative for me in the sense that, like, so my family we went from basically middle class when I was very, very young to poor class, to where my family was barely surviving when I was like a teenager. And so, like, that really fueled me to, like, want to work. Because I had this idea that, like, okay, if I get a job, it's going to be so based. I can help out my parents a little bit, but also I could buy some video games. And it was such a radicalizing moment for me, because as like a 16 to 18-year-old, when I first started working, my first job was Subway, hated it. The people really, they treated you like shit. The customers were absolutely terrible. Whenever the prices would go up, they would blame minimum wage and talk about how we don't do enough. Like, as I'm making their sandwich, it's like, I should spit in your fucking sandwich right now. I'm sorry. I don't know if I can cuss.
No,
that.
You can't. We're not on the radio right now. Okay. If we were Saturday morning, then I would have had to slap you.
Okay.
No, we're only online right now, so we're
I need
free
to
of the FCC censors.
Yeah. But you would see these people, they treat you terribly, and then on top of that, there's the bosses that treat you terribly, and year after year you realize that this is a catch-22. There's no escaping. You're in a hole and there's no way to dig yourself out of it. Each year the cost of living goes up and you don't get a raise, or maybe you do get a raise, but it's like 10 cents, and it just feels like it never gets better. How do you get out of this situation? And, throughout the years of having to rely on fast food and retail, because that was the only thing that would work around my college schedule, it was really frustrating, because I thought, like, no human being should be forced to endure these circumstances and work with the public, most of which are completely miserable people, and get paid so little money. Like it's a catastrophe. And what you said about like your anarcho-capitalist coworker was so funny, because I experienced that so much. Like I remember working at Walmart and I was getting trained by this old lady, and as she was training me, she was really sweet, but then she just dropped some random xenophobia and was like, you know, you and I, we work really hard for our money. And this was random, by the way. She was talking about the cash register and how to operate it, and then she just drops that in. She's like, yeah, you know, you and I, we work really hard, but then people come here and they get all this welfare. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I was just like that meme of like the puppet that's like staring awkwardly, because I was making so little money with a bachelor's degree at the time that I could still qualified for food stamps. So it's like, I'm the one you're talking about. I'm on welfare right now. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you should have solidarity with these folks. And part of why I think like what you all do is so important is because a lot of people just don't know any better. So when I was working at Walmart, not to go back to the same job, but like in our orientation, and thank God this video leaked afterwards, but there was this horrible anti-union propaganda video, and it was the most ridiculous thing I had ever seen in my life. And I remember looking at my two coworkers. There was just three of us in orientation, and there was really no reaction. I think they were barely paying attention, but I was sitting there like shocked, like, oh my God, this is like the rhetoric that they're using is so psychotic and Orwellian. It's like, you know, you don't want to go to a union. We're a family. And that whole mentality is reinforced everywhere in Walmart. If you go to the break room, there's like pictures of Sam Walton as if he's some sort of a deity. And management talks about how the Waltons were amazing. And, you know, it was so bizarre to me. And I remember asking my coworker, I'm like, hey, did they show you that really bizarre anti-union video? And her response really was shocking to me. She said, yeah, I remember seeing it, but I don't know what unions really are. And it was like, okay, that's the problem, because I've always like throughout life had this idea that people were just anti-union, but really it's a lack of education. And I think that the visibility of unions lately, that really is facilitating what I think is a paradigm shift, or hope is a paradigm shift. And it's the one thing in this country that gives me hopium currently, because people are understanding this is why things are so bad. I need a union.
That's actually, even in 2015, 2016, as I was getting politicized and I voted for Bernie Sanders, my politics were very confused in 2015, 2016. I voted for Bernie Sanders while also like not liking Black Lives Matter. But I came around.
Good on you.
Yeah. But you know, even then, voting for Bernie Sanders, 2015, I couldn't have told you what a union is coherently, and I had no idea that that was an option for me, right, or for my coworkers, and so that is part of why, you know, we wanted that we do what we do, you know, online, but in particular on the radio, you know, being on a conservative radio station in Huntsville, a black radio station in Muscle Shoals, community station in New Orleans, you know, we want to try to be there where people are just kind of passively tuning in and they're getting all these other messages, as opposed to people who might look for kind of stuff like that on YouTube. And that's kind of why we devote the resources that we do to finding people who will advertise to help pay for our time on the radio, instead of just instead of only being on YouTube, or like as a podcast or something like that, because I don't think that like I don't think that my insights are very like are that you know, groundbreaking or anything like that. And so I consider myself kind of like a base level educator on unions, to help get people to other places where they can go and learn more. That's kind of how I envision myself in our project. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.